Nerd Initiative presents the Comic Press Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Comic Press Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy, or JJ. Whatever you want to call me is fine with me. I am here today with two very special guests, faces you might recognize, and if you don't, you should. First off, we've got ODPH Ken here from the ODPH podcast. He's also the Nerd Initiative editor-in-chief of comics and the showrunner, basically, of the Nerd Initiative Bullpen, as well as co-host of the Turn a Page podcast. What's up, Ken?
JJ, what is going on, fam? Thank you so much for bringing me on the Comic Press podcast. I always love to talk shop with you, so let's do this.
Heck yeah, man. And then next up, we've got Matt from Hops Geek News, also a Nerd Initiative member, also a Nerd Initiative Bullpen member, also a co-host of Turn a Page podcast. What's up, Matt?
What's up, man? It's like we do a lot of things.
I'll say you guys got so many titles, man. That was a lot. So what's going on, guys?
Oh, man. It's Friday. It's been a crazy week. A lot of work being done by the bullpen, so we're kind of making everything happen and getting ready for, to start it up again. And obviously there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes we can't talk about, but it's been a good day. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah.
It's been a very productive week, I would say.
We've been this week I would say especially it's just insane from what, because we just started the bullpen and stuff a couple weeks ago, and between all of our reviews and things like that, just the things that have been happening so fast, it's impressive and insane to think about.
Yeah. I'll say even slightly scary, I think.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
because I was like, the spotlight's on everything we're doing now. It's all of a sudden,
But yeah, hey, that's a good thing, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's better to be infamous than forgotten. That's always my thing about it. And, the work that the entire team has done, I mean, shout out to Marty, shout out to Derek, shout out to Lauren, who just joined the squad too, and you two guys. And, it's a whole team. It's kind of cliche to say teamwork makes the dream work. But in all honesty, what we've done in the past month now, as scary as that sounds, has really been astonishing to see the growth and the connections and the interactions with the comic book community and how positive it's been and how it continuously is growing each and every week. And we're just getting started. That's the coolest thing about this.
Oh, yeah.
And with the team being so new of a thing, can you kind of run down the general idea how it came about and how you kind of grouped everybody together for this thing?
Yeah, honestly, I think this will be the first time we've talked about this on air. But during the early part of this year, if anybody doesn't know, I've been doing reviews on odphpodcast.com for quite a few years now. And recently, at the beginning of this year, I worked out a deal to do some signal boosting with Nerd Initiative. And shout out to Michael and Tony for allowing me to do that. And it's really helped grow the brand. And one in particular week, which Matt and JJ, since you've started doing reviews, I'm waiting to see your reaction when I say how many I did in 1 week. I wound up doing 12. And in the time frame it gets done, it is a lot for one person to take care of. So as offers of roles were growing within the brand, it kind of came about to see where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And one thing that I was always thinking is I always keep an eye out for the people in more or less the podcast community, because that's where my wheelhouse is, of who's really hustling, who's really putting in consistent work, quality work. That is the stuff that keeps you in this content creating world the longest. You could be here today, gone today, but if you are one that does things the right way, longevity is your reward. And when I came up with the idea of I want to kind of spread the wings a little bit and kind of get more people involved and really make a statement that Nerd Initiative could do comics and be one of those sites that you could really go to and trust for honest reviews and, no cut and paste, no, computer animated, whatever. It's honest. It's comic talk by comic fans, as the tagline is. the powers that be at Nerd Initiative, we were like, yeah, let's do this. And it kind of came down to, who do you think would be a great addition? And I mean, right at the top of my list was this guy that was doing these TikTok reviews on his site. I mean, I had listened to him for quite some time because not only can he talk beer like nobody else, but he can also talk comics. So I was like, well, we got to go get Matt. And then the next one I was immediately thinking was Marty, who unfortunately can't make it in tonight. But if everybody's not watching Panel to Panel podcast,
shout out to Marty.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Marty is the unsung hero of our squad too, because he's always in there, really hustling and doing what he can to support the team. And I had known that he had done reviews too, and he was kind of on a podcast hiatus at the time. And I was like, why not bring him in? And he's just been like, a fish to water, so to speak. And it was just kind of getting the right team together. And I think, JJ, when you got added too, like we were just kind of going through the list. And I mean, obviously we can't have everybody involved because there's just not enough to go around. But it was just getting the right people in and the right synergy together. And that's the whole thing that makes this work is when we all started, it was just the four of us. And we all just clicked at once. And everybody kind of understood, like, this is what we got to do. This is how to do it the right way. And just be honest, with your talk, because that will literally carry you through. And, in a short amount of time since everything was greenlit. And I mean, shout out to all the amazing publishers that has allowed us to do this too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because they could have said absolutely not. And everyone we've talked to has been on board and been so gracious with it. So, with everybody coming together and just having that concept, it's community over competition always. And if you are a content creator and you don't understand that, that's probably why you're struggling, in my opinion. But if you really get into that mindset, the doors open, and we are literally proof that that can work, and that does work.
Yeah. I think one of the things too, I always equate to kind of what we're doing, right, is it almost feels like a startup company in a way, because we're getting off. In a way it is at the same time. And right from the get-go, when you brought me in, it's like we all understand the business, and but we all clicked like right away. There was no, some people are like, oh, why is this person reviewing this over this? There's none of that. It's all like, hey man, seamless. If there's two people that want to review the same thing, either, hey, we've been cool about it, oh no, you got this one, man, take this one. Or it's like, why don't we have multiple and just get it from different aspects and different perspectives? And it feels very welcoming. And I know that's the number one thing that we want to build with this too, is comics are for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think so far we've done a really good job from, our team putting it out there. And, there's been some creators, especially lately, that have called out some people that want to be comic book reviewers, and they haven't done their due diligence. And I think that's something that we also have really, really paid attention to, is we pay attention to the fine details, and in this industry, it's going to go a long way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, even if something as small as, getting the writer's name spelled correctly. Like something as simple as that, I see a lot of places screw up.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. It's right there. If you're getting these early things too, it's right there on the screen. Have them side by side. That's what I do when I write my stuff is, hey, I got the page of who my creators are while I'm writing the review with who they are right there. It's easy. And a lot of people, some people, I guess, just don't take the time to even do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing too. I mean, everybody's so anxious to get something out there for clicks, and it's like, no, if you take the time to really hone your craft and really do the work, that's the key thing. Because when anybody sees this, they're gonna, I mean, fans these days are so smart, and so are the creators and everybody involved, that they're watching. And they're going to call you out if you do something wrong. And if you do something right, you're going to get praised. And, we've been fortunate enough. We've had a lot of people reach out and say, you guys are doing the right things. And, when we get that, feedback, that proves that we're doing stuff right. And other people, they're doing whatever they're doing. Like I say, I don't worry about them too much. I just worry about our house. And, that's why it's usually me on the day before, just going through fine tuning, and everybody's just done such an amazing job of just really taking the time and really being right about things, and really taking the details and making sure that the quality of work is there. That now, as weird as it sounds, like, we're becoming the brand, and that's the coolest thing, and also like the most intimidating thing too.
Yeah. It's always intimidating at first, right? When you start to get that, because you might go from like you're not used to it to, oh wow, we kind of are becoming that household name, so to speak. But it's again just taking our time and showing that we're passionate about it, and we don't do things just for click or shock value or whatever it may be. I think we're in like a comic book resurgence of sorts right now too, because there's so many good books out that I think we're doing a really good job, because when people think comic books, it's superheroes, oh, it's Marvel, oh, it's DC. That's not the case. And I think we've done a really good job at showing that, because Boom, IDW, Image, Skybound, Scout, they've all been just doing such incredible work. And we're finding those more niche comic books, and we're putting that review out there, and it's just like, oh, there are more avenues, there are alternatives other than just big beefy men slapping men kind of thing,
You knew we were gonna be throwing in a wrestling reference here, JJ. You knew
I knew
was
it
coming.
was coming.
Yeah. But no, but Matt's exactly right. I mean, to think about the industry and where it is now, and there's so much out there, and there's so much good stuff. And I mean, the big two are doing great things too. Don't get it twisted.
Oh yeah.
But my God, the stuff on the indies right now is some of the best work in comics in recent years. I'm always astounded when I'm going through and I'm finding something from an indie, and it's now becoming my favorite book. And I can't put it down, and I'm sitting there like raving about it. And people are like, where is this? I'm like, this is why you got to go to your local comic shop and go check. And especially, seeing the reactions of the indies too. Like, that's been something that's really stuck out with me lately, is just everybody's so gravitating towards things that I know, but it's not public, like real big names. But you go into some chats and everybody's like, hey, have you checked this out from Image? Or like, have you read this from Boom? And I'm like, oh my God, this is like music to my ears. Like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. Because I mean, eventually, I don't know about anybody else out there, but I get sick of Marvel, DC, cookie cutter superheroes all the time. And especially in the last like year or two, Marvel and DC's, kind of been just kind of phoning it in, it feels like.
It's to a degree certain, there are
I was going to say certain titles are exceptions to that, of course.
There are certain, like I will say I enjoy what the DC's doing with their Night Terrors run, and I'm excited for what Christian Ward's about to do with, Batman. However, you are kind of right, because DC defaults to Batman time and again, and a lot of those
Batman, it's a Batman villain or a Batman family member, or
exactly. It's like, the guys, we need a book out this month. What are we doing? Batman. All right, that's our 17th Batman in the rotation coming out in the month of July. Do it. And it does get kind of exhausting. I love the big two, but it's good to see like some of these refreshing stories that are full of passion, because a lot of these people that are drawing, like, for example, I had a chance to talk with Tyrell Cannon, and just hearing how passionate he is and where he came from. It's not to say that the big two artists and things that if you've made it there aren't passionate, but you can just feel it at the same time.
They have a lot more restrictions put on them.
Exactly.
A lot of their books have like 10, 11 creators working on one book.
Yeah.
Well, when you kind of make it to that level, there has to be more eyes on it, which I understand too. But with some titles, it's always good to see like the resurgence happen. And that's one thing I think with DC right now, the dawn of DC stuff has been really good. And I know with Night Terror going on right now, that's kind of been a little pushed to the back burner for now. But the stuff that's coming out of there, especially the Superman stuff.
Oh, Superman's been excellent. And I'm not even a big Superman fan.
I'm not
like
either.
longtime listeners of the show know I'm not a huge Superman fan.
No, but the Joshua Williamson series has been incredible.
Excellent.
Yeah. And the Tom Taylor stuff with Jonathan Kent, I love that series. I think that has been very, very good. I know a lot of fans are kind of, 50-50 on it, but I think what he's done with it has just been such a refreshing take. And it's something that with Jonathan Kent being the future Superman, you're going to see, a difference between him and Clark, and it stands out. And how he does things, I thought was just brilliant. And, the rest of the line has just like exploded lately. And it's one of my favorite reads. And I mean, if I have to have one of the big twos thrown together, Batman Superman by Mark Waid and Dan Mora is the best superhero book on the block, bar none.
I'd have to agree.
I agree. Yeah, I would fully agree with that 100% right now.
Yeah, and that is saying something with all the quality that's out there too. Because like even with Marvel, the X-Men line, especially kicking off with the Fall of X stuff coming out right now, that's been wild. And I know they just had a couple books come out this week. Children of the Vault, Dennis Camp wrote that. I know him from 20th Century Men by Image and Bloodshot Unleashed by Valiant, which is what, like, both of those series are just intense reads, but they're fantastic. And to see him now writing Bishop and Cable is a real treat. And then next week, Dark X-Men #1 comes out, Steve Fox and Jonas Scharf. That team up, like, that's going to be an amazing read. Like I say, the sooner I can read it, the better, because like my excitement, I'm trying to contain for that one. And then, yeah, with everything with Fall of X has just been great. Spider-Man with the gang war coming out, I think is going to be a kind of a back to basics in my opinion, just from everything that's kind of getting the vibe from. And but in comparison with everything else going on too, like the Marvel and DC, I think a lot of times it's the comfort blanket, so to speak, to go to the crossovers and do stuff like that. But I think it's also how things move a lot too, because fans, a lot of their fan base, much like in wrestling, when your favorite federation does a certain thing, everybody kind of flocks to it, and they don't like change, so to speak. So I think that's why they kind of go to the big events. But I think when they get back to just basics, and I kind of go with the Dawn of DC as the prime example, when it goes back to traditional superhero storytelling, it's really amazing stuff. And it reminds readers of old and also inspires new readers of why superheroes are so important. Still in this day and age, after 80 years.
Yeah.
Like, to think about it, to see those heroes come back and be fresh. And I can't scream enough about Joshua Williamson's run on Superman. If you want prime example of that, is like literally reading something modern, but it has that vintage vibe to it. And few things can capture it like that. Like I say, it's just chef's kiss for me.
Yeah, and not to mention too, something that's been happening as of late is you see a lot of these, because the movies are big, right? Marvel, DC, they're all doing their thing, and it's cool to see people like Iman Vellani. She's now about to come in and pen her own Miss Marvel run that has a lot of people excited, because before people were like, Miss Marvel, who cares? But it seems like they've done a really good job at getting people invested, and of course they're gonna go after the whole like she's no longer inhuman, she's kind of a mutant kind of aspect of things. So there is things to be excited about in the big two. Not to say there isn't, but it is. There's just comics in general right now. It's a great time.
Oh yeah, I think the best thing of this year thus far was San Diego Comic-Con, for the simple fact that unfortunately with the strike going on, and obviously support to WGA and the SGA too, or SAG, but with it just being focused on comics, like you really got to hear it was back. Yeah, exactly. You got to hear so many stories coming out about books that are coming, and fans were buzzing about it. Like I didn't hear anybody complain like, oh, we didn't have that Hall H moment. It was like, did you hear what Distillery has coming? Or,
Yeah.
oh my God, the Massiverse panel. And when you get that kind of reaction, like that is the most inspiring thing I think for a fan, because it's literally back to basics, like you touched upon, Matt. And when we can get there as fans, it is the best thing to be, because when we're just sitting there just talking about the great stories, not like, oh, what's happening on this streaming service or what's coming in the movies. Oh, I don't like, there's just a certain thing when at its core, it's just sitting there on a Wednesday talking shop in a shop.
Oh yeah.
That you can't touch.
Or it's like, hey, you're in that shop again, and it's just like, what should I pull this week? And then that opens up a whole plethora of conversation that somebody might overhear, and it's just like a domino effect. And it's always good, like you said, kind of to wipe the slate clean and go back to basics. And I fully agree with you, because San Diego Comic-Con, I was so ecstatic to be like, wow, we're actually going to get to focus on comic books again, because people forget that Comic-Con back in the 90s was comic book focused. Like this was the whole purpose. And it was honestly probably nice that people didn't have to camp out for 2 days at a Hall H. And now that let them see these other stories that are around. And somebody probably found their new favorite comic book at SDCC this year because of that.
No, I agree 100%, because like a lot of the bigger conventions, they've become very it's a convention. It's always been commercialized, obviously, but the bigger ones have been kind of taken over by people who aren't really fans. I feel like sometimes I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but you can tell when you go to one of these things where if it's like run by people who just want to milk money out of everybody going, and ones that are run by actual fans of comics and anime or whatever have you.
Yeah, there was an example of one of the cons that recently took place that it was wall to wall packed with people. Or there's another big convention that I don't want to, I'm not naming names on purpose here, but there is a big convention that all I see on like my feed sometimes when they post, it's just like this big actor's coming, this big actor's coming, this, and then I go ahead and I'm like, all right, cool, but let me go ahead and look at what artists are coming, and then that page is like 2 artists announced on there right now. I'm just like,
Oh, and
it
those
kind
lists are getting shorter and shorter every year with the bigger conventions. The list of actual comic book guests gets smaller and
oh yeah,
smaller and smaller.
you've got 40, actors, and whatever it is, and then you look at it and there's maybe 10 comic book creators, and it's just kind of a shame
Right.
to see.
Unless you go over to Artist Alley, like tucked in the corner
Mhm,
away from where
Mhm.
all the, cons cameras are,
yeah,
which is
Yeah.
so weird to me. Like if you ever watch like the promos for some of the bigger conventions, they steer clear of Artist Alley. They don't even go over there.
you never see it.
You see the
Yeah.
entryway with the big logos, and that's it, really. The outside of the building, a bunch of cosplayers. Like,
I,
Well, I think in those kind of situations, though, you're gearing for a pop culture audience. And, like there is a difference to that, which
yeah.
it's kind of, but, the cool thing with cons like that, it's kind of the meshing of two worlds that you see pop culture
Oh,
meet the
yeah. I'm not
comic.
saying I don't enjoy those conventions.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I completely get what you're saying. But I think that that's kind of where you see the gearing up there. But I think with the absence this year of San Diego, and I mean, we don't know what's going to be happening in New York when it comes up. But with that kind of vibe, I mean, I think you're seeing creators get more opportunities to connect with fans. And I really think that that's driving interest in books that are coming out, that with the big two that have everything, lined up for the rest of the year, and then with all the indies too, there's so much to be excited about that now you're really getting a chance to hear about them at those
yeah.
cons.
I would say I want to shout out this Emerald City Comic Con. I went there this year, for example, and they had a perfectly good blend. They had big time, Artist Alley had Jody Hauser, Jackson Lansing, Josh Trujillo, and then of course you had some big name actors and things like that, and they blended it perfectly together. And I was like, see, this is what I want to see at a con. Like you have the best of both worlds to where you can seamlessly go between the two. And they also had all the actors and actresses right next to Artist Alley. So like it funneled people through there, that I thought was a really great idea too, because then you're going to get eyeballs on those people's comics and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
C2E2 did a pretty good job last year with having a lot of artists and comic book writers and stuff like that. The only gripe I had about it was that the aisles in Artist Alley were so narrow that you would get stuck.
Yeah.
Like, like I
Yeah.
could not walk through one aisle at one point. I literally got stuck for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. No, that's the worst too. It's like you're just sardined in there, and yeah, not being able to move.
The
It's
rest
pretty
of the
brutal.
convention, wide open, nice, lots of room to walk, plenty of space. But I don't know what it was about Artist Alley for them. They just crammed them all into the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am pretty excited to get to explore things like GalaxyCon next year, because I'll be 30 minutes from Richmond. I'm hoping to explore that. Awesome Con next year, and then Raleigh.
Awesome
I'm
Con was good. That was a good
excited
one.
to go there. Yeah, I've never been to. I've been to
It
the
was
Raleigh
crowded,
Con.
but it was good.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's DC, so
Yeah, it was like 80,000 people or something. It was insane, but it was fun though. I had a good time at that one.
I'll definitely be going to those next year, and I'm pretty excited to see that region of things, because I've been to Comic Con, Boston, I've been to Raleigh, I've been to MegaCon Orlando, Salt Lake City, all those cons, and it's fun getting to see how people show up in different regions of the country too. I
Mhm.
think there's always like what people show up for the most. It's pretty exciting. That's probably one of my favorite things to see.
Yeah, I'm New York Comic Con, but every year that's the go-to. And this year we're fortunate enough to be press, and that's gonna be wild. And I just can't wait to get there, because there's just such an energy too. Like I say, when you go around the cons and you can just feed that energy, and really, carry it through, because especially cons can wear you down by usually day 3. You're kind of like struggling to get through it, because it's so much sensory overload. But it's just being around the fans. I mean, that's the greatest thing about it too. It's like you wind up meeting so many amazing people and just sharing in the fandoms. And there's there's no place like it too. Like I say, you can just go there and just have those connections and just really grow into becoming a fan of a different genre, something there. There's always something for everybody too. And, just the energy that everybody brings into is like, especially with New York, it's always been very calm and very peaceful, like moving through, like they're, like everybody's just so happy to be there. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just such a cool experience. Yeah. Like I say, everybody's just, you would think New York is just a little more, hustle and bustle and so to speak. No, everybody's just pretty much laid back and, just happy to be there, which is awesome to see.
I definitely think that's one of the good things about, cons too, is like you mentioned, everybody's happy to be there. I've so many fandoms coming together and it's like everybody's just happy to be in their world. And honestly, my experience is everyone's pretty respectful too. Like the comic book community, the anime community, all of it. It's just everyone's really respectful of each other. And you get 80,000 people together. It's pretty rare, but I've not had a bad experience even.
Which says something about people, I think, because think about how much like anger and vitriol and gatekeeping and toxicity goes on in the online community for all these fandoms.
Oh yeah.
But then when you go to the convention, everybody's best friends, it's all love, like they're all the sweetest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
It's such a weird vibe, but you know what? It's the best thing though. Like I say, you can get into some great conversations. You meet some amazing people. Like for me personally, we have one of the best ODPH stories of all time from just hanging out in a line where in 2019, Padawan Jay and myself were waiting into the DC Nation panel. And as we're in line, there's somebody behind us just yelling, "Hey, is everybody fired up for today? Is everybody ready to go?" And we turn around and there's a guy standing there. He's like, "Hey, what's going on? My name's Andre. Nice to meet you." And we wind up having this amazing conversation. And Matt would know him differently now because of his Twitter name of DreDriven83, who has become part of our team because he was just, we had this great conversation, really hit it off with him. He's such an amazing fan. Go follow him on Twitter too.
Yeah.
Tell him I sent you. And, he that's the prime example. Like, that's one of our best stories because as we're just sitting there just talking, we're just being fans and talking everything DC. And, he's getting into his comic talk. I'm getting my comic talk. And then, like we just go in. It's just those moments where you meet friends and, really have that bond over fandoms. Like, it's just such a cool vibe. It's just it's amazing.
I think that's what people forget about too. We live in such an online world. And so you're seeing, like for Twitter, for example, God, cesspool of just hate. And so it's nice to like get that refreshing when you go to these things and you just talk comic books with somebody in line while you're waiting, or a movie even, or whatever it may be. You meet that person and it's just like you click. I can't tell you how many people I've met, in line to talk, and I still have them, whether it's on Facebook or whatever it is today. And just to share our love of movies, comic books, music, even, whatever it may be.
Yeah, that was something interesting I saw at Awesome Con and at C2E2 was there was a very large K-pop section.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to me because I'm like, okay, I know this is becoming like a bigger thing here, but I didn't expect to see it at like a Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But I guess it kind of makes sense though, since there's usually a big anime section.
That does make sense.
I'm assuming those two worlds overlap a lot, I would assume.
Oh, yes. Especially at New York.
I would say because my brother is huge into anime and manga. I'm just now dipping my toe into like the modern stuff. I remember the old stuff, like the 80s Gundam shows, the old Samurai Troopers. Like I remember the old 90s animes that we got here in the state.
Yeah. No, it's slowly taken over, especially going to a con, and I've been to some just for the different newer styles like My Hero Academia and such, and just
it's
being in a room. Yeah. And just being around people that are just that passionate about it. Like I say, that's where I kind of dip my toes, so to speak, in the water, because I'm raised on Cowboy Bebop. Like that is kind of my end all be all anime. And then I kind of just gave up after that. But to see the excitement of that, it actually made me go out and start watching it. And I can understand why people are hooked on it right now and going through. And I know many people that once you start that first episode, you just go and you become completely wrapped in that world. And it's such an amazing story too, that, it's just, if you're not used to, if you think it's something else, it's like, no, they tell some of the best stories and a lot of, high action, high drama. And there literally is something for everybody there too.
Oh yeah, it's just like comic books. If you don't know where to
Mhm.
start as a new comic book reader, the first thing I always ask somebody is, what kind of movies do you like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you like horror, there's a comic book for that. If you like comedy, there's a comic book for that. I mean, there's literally any genre you can think of.
Hmm.
There really is. That's really good point too. That people are always like, there used to be that stigma of, oh, a comic book, but it's like, yeah, dude, literally, I could something is killing the children or Ice Cream Man. It's like I get this really good horror, and then
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I
there's
want something
stuff like
funny.
She Bites, which is really good, like horror
Yeah.
comedy kind of deal. And then, By the Horns, which is like metal, high fantasy steampunk stuff. And then Do a Power Bomb, which is, wrestling.
Oh my God.
Yes.
We need
They
to
they won
side
an
note,
Eisner for this best young adult comic this year. Shout out Daniel Warren Johnson.
that will be on turn a page at some point by the end of this year. Mark my words.
Such a
100%. We
good
should do
book.
a near Survivor series is what we should be doing.
Book it.
That's what
Done.
we need to do. Yes.
Oh, I'm so in about that.
But like
But-
literally just
Yeah.
those three examples, you've got high fantasy with steampunk technology mixed in, horror and comedy, and then pro wrestling with supernatural stuff mixed in.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like there's something for everybody.
And that's what I love too, is because, again, like when we were younger, there was always that stigma, but now it's like, I take my kids to this. My kids come in the comic book shop with me, and they usually pick out a comic book off the shelf. They pick out, like my son picked out in the middle of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Power Rangers run. I'm like, sure, go ahead. You can start in the middle. If you like it, we'll go back. And then my daughter's like My Little Pony and stuff like that. But again, it appeals to them. There's something for us, and there's something, and then it also like breeds that next generation that's going to continue to transform and transcend. And it's such a good time to be a comic book fan, and just fandoms in general. I think are starting to be. There's certain ones, of course, this doesn't speak for everyone, but fandoms in general, it's like a safe haven for a lot of folks, and it's just breeds that positivity.
Absolutely.
Unless certain fandoms. Can't speak for all of them. Star Wars.
Yeah, right. Well, but that's where the positivity needs to drown out the negativity.
100%.
In every single fandom too, because you're always going to have somebody that's never going to be happy, and you know what? That's their deal, and it's not their place to make you feel bad about if you like something, and it's not your place to make them feel good about something. It's like you have to love what you love. If you love a certain series, love it.
Oh yeah.
And be a fan. And never falter with that. That's the biggest thing. Because when you start thinking like, oh, I should just like something because somebody else does. No, that's not the whole point of being a fan. If you really like a book, and you know what, if everybody else doesn't like it, it doesn't matter. That's your book, and that's your story, and that's what you love. Like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I read that people are like, what? And I'm like, no, I love this. This is my wheelhouse. This is my fandom.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's like, if you don't, hey, to each their own. And
just love what you love, man. Life is too short to be worried about what other people think, as long as it's reasonable, but it's love what you love. That's why I'm always like, I don't care. I try to find the positivity in every single thing. And we were talking about this, even if there's something I don't like, I'm sure I can find something within that I will like and enjoy, even if it's not for me overall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing too. As well said, Matt. Art is subjective, and comics, everybody's gonna have a different reaction to it. Some people will love a story, some people won't. But the thing is, if it's something you gravitate towards, okay, great. If you don't like it, hey, just move on. But there will be something else out there, and that's the one great thing right now is there's literally so much variety that your fandom can be found anywhere at a comic shop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're weekly releases, so you got to think there's something new coming to a shelf literally every week, and there's at least I'd say about 200 new comic books a week. That's just the big ones that get in the shop.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy, but to see the industry making that much too. I mean, that's a testament to the creators.
Mm-hmm.
That's a testament to the fans showing that interest, because I know, we're fortunate enough, I guess we should say, we know a lot of indie creators, and this is their dream, and this is something that they've been chasing. And, just the fact that they can get a book out to a store is like the goal. It's the end all be all. And when you can kind of have that energy, especially we see so many come out, I mean, yeah, it's a business at the end of the day, but just for that personal satisfaction, I mean, that weighs out more than anything.
You know, I think, you're talking about the creators and stuff. I think one of the really cool things that I've really noticed, especially since doing the podcast that I do and things, it's there is a very saturated, like you said, there's 200 plus new comics a week, and that's just what's getting in
Hmm.
stores. But something I have yet to see is that all of these artists, writers have, gatekeeped comics, or, none of them are
Yeah.
like, no, this is our thing. You don't know what you're doing. Hey, they've
Mhm.
been very welcoming. Hey, you're just starting out. Let me give you some tips. Um, Gail Simone, Scott Snyder are two people that have even done online like comic book
Hmm.
classes to help
Yeah.
get people into the comic book realm. And it's like, that's one of my favorite things about comic books is even the creators are just the accessibility, the, hey, yeah, come join our family, we'll teach you, and then you can make something. And it's not a competitive, it is to a degree, but at the same time they're not very much
Hmm.
like divas about it, I guess is the easiest way to say
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And we get it, this is a business, but come join us anyways.
Oh, absolutely. I think the fact that you can find so many creators that are big names are so humble
Mhm.
and so giving of their times too. And Scott, I mean, I know from Scott personal experience, is one of the best people to meet and is so gracious with talking with fans and really making you feel so welcomed and thankful, like for reading his stuff. And his stuff is lights out no matter what you pick
Oh
up.
yeah.
And just to have that vibe, I mean, it's one of my highlights I've done since I've been doing my podcast. Like just to, sorry, I can keep gushing about
No,
this,
you're
but so
good, man. But like I was just gonna say, because
Goals.
I know we can't reveal anything about it yet, but you just had an interview with somebody last night, and he's one of the
Mhm.
biggest names in indies stuff right now. Like, period. One of the hottest books on the market. We're not going to talk about it right now in this episode. I'm sorry, everybody, but we've been sworn to silence until a later date
Yeah.
to be
You'll
determined.
see. I guess that just means you have to follow Nerd Initiative to find out what it
Yeah, it
is.
just means you're gonna have to follow Nerd Initiative and keep an eye out for Turnipage because that's where you're gonna find it eventually. But
Yes.
anyway, he is another example like that. Like you said, he was super humble, very, very chill guy, very nice to talk to, soft spoken even.
Hmm. Oh yeah, like and just like I say, when you can run into creators like that, that means the absolute world
Hmm.
because as fans, you always hear like "don't meet your heroes" or
Yes.
that saying. And we've been fortunate, like the majority of people we've met have just been so amazing and so gracious, and it's like talking to a fellow fan. And when
Yes.
when you have that kind of interaction, like it doesn't feel like, hey, I'm talking to superstar in the industry. It's like I'm talking to enter name here.
They're just
Right. Well, and
When
these are
you,
two other good examples of that. Both the teams on these books right here, they're hit books. They're doing very well in the shops. And I've interviewed both the creative teams, and they're all of them are like the sweetest people you'll ever talk to.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll even say I have this one sitting here because I was just taking pictures with it earlier. But even for a title that's big like this, Blue Beetle right now,
yeah, huge.
Adrian Gutierrez was like super pumped that we talked with Josh Trujillo, the writer, about it, and then even Josh was such a sauce, but he was amazing. He was super welcoming. He's like, hey, yeah, well, I mean, and then obviously there's another book coming out next week, Washington's Gay General, that we got to read, which branched off of something like DC that you wouldn't have normally have read, but the
Hmm.
creator, and it's just like you said, man, they're just people. They love what they
Hmm.
do and they just love sharing it. They're fans like we're fans. And that's the
Yeah.
best.
Oh, exactly. Like I say, when you can get that kind of vibe, like there's nothing like it. And that's the one thing too. Like I always tell creators, like if you get a chance to go meet one, like talk to them.
Yeah.
Especially if like I say, they're just as happy to see you as you are them.
Hmm.
And like I say, when you can have those interactions, there is many a stories I can't say on air, but there's stuff that when you have those moments that are so personal that you can talk and just be like, wow, like you take away from what they do, and it's just having that normal conversation. Just what an amazing conversation you have. Like it sticks with you, and then when you read their work, it just amplifies it that much more.
There was a so this morning we sat down with Christian Ward and he said something because he used to be a school teacher and
Oh, really?
he used to teach, and so he was teaching art and one of his students said to him, if you like comic books so much, why aren't you creating them? And that's the push that it took for him to get into comic books, and now he's one of the best artists out there. And so sometimes, like you said, it's just go
Thank you,
talk to them.
Halicon 73. Sorry to cut you off real
No, you're
real
good. I
quick,
just
but
thought
I had to say thank you real quick.
yeah.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you so much. But yeah, he was just like, that's all. It's just something somebody said. So you never know these interactions. It could be a kid, a comic book creator is like, hey, yeah, do this. So they show you that one thing. Like my son had a run-in with one of the biggest Marvel artists earlier this year, and it could be that one thing that they say to you, and then that breeds the next great thing that happens. So it's just like you're saying, man, just go talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you never know what's going to inspire somebody else, and that's the great thing when you hear about their nerd origin stories.
Oh yeah.
Okay, how did you get into this? And then you hear that. I mean, I'll even give a shout out to our guy Mason, who does the Cardinal for Alpha Comic Books.
Oh yeah.
And he's been a lifetime fan, and the fact that his book is now out via Kickstarter had a great campaign, and just the excitement. And anybody was like, we gave him a shout out too, and he was like blown away by that, and just the nicest thing too, like compliments, and just that's his dream to do this, and he's always wanted to, and now he gets the chance to. So everybody should go check that out with Alpha Comic Books. I'll give them a plug. The Cardinal #1 is out on Kickstarter right now. #2, I believe, is on the way. So there's a lot of good things
Pretty
happening
crazy
there,
artwork in that one.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah. But it's definitely, talking about somebody that just is inspired to do this. I mean, Mason's a great one. I know our guy, too. I'll do the shameless plug.
Alan.
Alan Dunford.
Alan, we love you.
Yeah. Alan is another one that is just, chasing the dream, too. And, when we have those interactions and we talk with them, and just to hear how inspired they are, that's the coolest thing, and it's going to carry through as we move forward. The next generation of big artists, big writers they're coming out to, and it just makes for, the next generation of fans as well.
Without a doubt. Could not have said it better.
So what is your guys' like go-to comfort genre for comic books? Like if it's not superheroes and you guys need to pick something up, it's been a crap day, what are you reaching for?
Oh man. Horror.
Any particular like brand of horror? Because that's a pretty like
it is a pretty
broad genre, especially nowadays.
I keep things like things like Ice Cream Man, for example. I keep those on deck to slowly read through because I like that supernatural type horror aspect of things. It's kind of over the top goofy because it makes you laugh, but at the same time, it's still like that horror genre aspect. So nothing too serious. It's just you can laugh at and be like, what am I reading? This is silly, because you can't help but laugh after a bad day when you read something like that. It's just like, what am I reading right now?
Oh, 100%.
Man. All right, so you said not superheroes. I read a lot more superheroes, but that's my comfort zone. But I guess like I've now become a horror fan, which of doing so many reviews, because I mean, shout out to Boom Studios. I think they are doing some of the best horror stuff in the business
Hands
right
down.
now.
I would agree.
I mean, everything in the Slaughterverse is amazing. House of Slaughter, fantastic. Especially right now, the latest issue just came out. It's a perfect jumping on point. But Something is Killing the Children. It deserves all the praise it gets, and James Tynion proves it every time. But even like a series like Specs that came out earlier this year, or The Horror, that really they're both horror books. They're both very different, but they're both such high quality books that you sit there and I'm like, I wind up getting involved in reading them, and like, and the younger version of me would have been like, what are you picking up? Like, this is something you never would have gone for. But I start gravitating towards that, and then even a lot of the stuff that's on Scott Snyder's Comixology Originals line, which goes into print via Dark Horse Comics, like Canary, which is a horror western, which with Dan Pinozan art, who we know from Alice Never After. Like when you,
I really enjoy that one too.
Yeah, like when you see those two meet up and they do this fantastic book, and like I say, it's a horror western. Like it's not like supposed to work, but it does, and it's so flawless. And Hiram Tell is like one of the worst people on the planet. And I don't want to give away too much because you should be going out and buying this. I'm just saying. But when you have stuff like that, and even another great one that's on that line too is Clear with Francis Manipul, and it's
so good.
Sci-fi noir crime story, and it's so like and there's just so much different stuff in there. Even Book of Evil with Jacques too. Like, I mean, I love pretty much everything that's on that line. no, let me rephrase it. I love everything that is on that line, but because it's not superheroes, but they do their own vibes, and you still get those aspects in it. And I say, there's horror, there's all ages. Dudley That's in the Forever Machine with Jamal Igle, like literally, and Duck and Cover that just came out now too is like, so. When you can go like to that, I guess like that's kind of my wheelhouse when I don't do superhero books, but I mean that's where like I got into comics, so it's kind of like that's my go-to. But yeah, I would have to say like horror stuff right now is just really overtaking me, and I'm kind of like I'm surprised, happily surprised, but it's something I would never have predicted at the beginning. So
I just want to say, HollyCon, man, like
You are like the
come by more
nicest viewer
often.
I think we've ever had. I want to say that real quick.
Yeah, like please, by all means, like come by more often. Like you're so amazing. Wow, the world needs. I appreciate
The
that.
world
That
needs
made my
more
day
guys
right
like
there.
that.
Yeah, we need more people like that. The positivity right there is what we're talking about. We need more of you.
absolutely, please make sure you're following us on Nerd Initiative. We'll give you a follow back.
Yeah, like that's super
We'll make that happen.
100%.
man. Yeah,
Because that's
But-
what it's about right there, is finding people that actually want to help the community be better.
Yeah.
man, that made my day. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm riding
Yeah.
the high for the rest of the night, that whole weekend, probably. In fact, right there.
Yeah, and there
Well, that's
was
what-
a really, really mean comment earlier that I
I
had to
saw that, yeah.
block and
I blocked it too.
ignore, but
No, I didn't see it. That's why I get
that
my
made
phone
up
out so I
for
can
it,
read
though,
it in the chat here.
100%.
Yeah, I reported that one that popped up earlier, but yeah, that one made up for it for sure. But what about you, JJ? What is your comfort zone?
See, mine's a little like hard to find a lot of the times. I like anything that has to do with Celtic high fantasy.
Ooh,
Ooh.
So
Okay.
if people okay, this might be
Let's go on a
controversial.
journey.
I don't
Let's
know with how people can be sometimes, but I would consider myself
Do we need
closest
to give a
anything
disclaimer?
would be Celtic paganism, if I was closest to any kind of denomination. So anything that has to do with that kind of stuff is like fascinating to me. So like books like Triskel from Scout Comics, I interviewed Felipe Pan, the writer of that, and he basically took like a King Arthur-esque story and created his own narrative around the mythology of it. Not necessarily the characters, but Merlin is referenced, Arthur's referenced, and like there's a lot of like druidic references in there. And he also took things from like Welsh paganism and French paganism, like old stuff. He did like 10 years of research on this before he even wrote the book.
wow.
Went to Wales
that's
and like
awesome.
studied with like a scholar over there to learn more about, the whole paganism thing. So shout out Felipe Pan, Brazilian comic book writer. He's an outstanding writer.
That's like not a
interesting.
genre that you hear a lot of people go for. So I see, again, there's something for everybody, and this just proves it right there. Like, no matter what your niche is, you're going to find it in this medium.
Yes. Yeah, that's the
100%.
coolest thing about it, and especially when you can find stuff like that, it's just, it just goes to show how strong the industry is with that. So, when you can really see the talent that's appearing and just, connecting with that. Because like I said, we gave 3 different genres pretty much that we're all into, and it's not superheroes. And that's the coolest thing about it. So, like I say, it's all win. It's all win.
100%.
Well, man, I'm getting a little worn out, guys.
This is fun. This is definitely fun, good, just like feel good, man. Feel good. Again, we had someone pop in. They made our day. We made theirs. That's what it's all about. at the end
Shout
of the
out
day.
HollyCon, man. You really did make all our days today.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Stu and Jared from Punch the Timeline too. I finally got the chat up and running on the computer here to get to see those guys. And great comic people too. Like I say, that's just bringing everybody together. Like I say, when you can get a topic going and just talk comics and like really have that vibe too.
Yep.
It's truly amazing stuff. So, can't go wrong anytime you're talking comics.
At all.
No, not at all. So before we get out of here, gentlemen, and I let you guys get back to your weekends, what is there anything you guys would like to plug individually?
Well, Well, I guess first and foremost, if you want to find out what's going on with me and everybody else at the ODPH podcast, very simple. Swing on over to odphpodcast.com, where we have everything from the TeePublic store link, the Patreon link, the blog section, the classifieds, where you can find friends of the show, such as Nerd Initiative. So if you're thinking like, wait, I go there, I won't be able to find Nerd Initiative. Haha, we got you covered, because we have the links all there, and so much more is at odphpodcast.com. Also, every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Matt, myself, and the one and only Tom Craven are turning a page with you, showing you the latest in comics, talking to creators, and deep diving into some of our favorite stories that we think should be in your collection. So make sure you drop that follow right here for Nerd Initiative YouTube, and you won't miss an issue. Because trust us, when we have a great story, we want to pass it on to you and tell you to turn a page.
Jeez, how does somebody follow that, man? All right.
I'll say, man, are you sure you weren't a used car salesman in a past life?
There's probably like many lives that I've lived, but I say it rolls off the tongue after doing it for so long. But and thank you for having us on too, JJ too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I would just say, hey, aside from Ken hit it head on, I can't even add up on the Nerd Initiative stuff, but our own show, Hops Geek News, myself and my wonderful co-host Lauren, we grab a beer and we talk about comic books, movies, TV shows each and every week. We've had some really great creators on lately, like Josh Trujillo. We had Tyrell Cannon swing through, Christian Ward swung through. So man, a lot of really cool people that are just coming through, and we just get to hang out and chat, and that's what we love to do. So drop us a follow. You can find us the name, just search our name if worst case comes to worst. And then again, turn a page where we get to talk about just pure comic book bliss. And yeah, man, thanks for having us on. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, dude, we'll have to do this more frequently for sure. Real quick, everybody, make sure every Wednesday you guys do drop by nerdinitiative.com for the latest and greatest in new comic book day reviews. Not a lot of places are giving you comic book reviews, but we are, and we're giving you between like 5 and 10 every Wednesday.
It's going to be growing more and more. So the basic thing that I can advise you is, you see that wonderful QR code on your screen. Make sure you hit that. Make sure you put the follow in. Make sure you hit the RSS feed follow. However you need to do it, because starting at about 9 a.m. throughout the entire day, we are dropping reviews left and right from the biggest publishers going in the business. And if you are like not sure what I should be picking up, like what is the book that I need to get, trust me when I say this, there is a 98% chance that we have that listed on that site. So you can go into your comic shop and know exactly what the big week book is. And you can add it to your collection. And then we're also going to give you recommendations about other stuff. So if you're not sure what to get, we are your home for comic recommendations. I think I can say that very confidently. And
I would agree.
And like I say, it starts Wednesday, 9 a.m. is the kickoff, and all through the day. So you got to kind of refresh, but keep going to the site, because not only do you see the great comic creators that we talk with, not only do you see the great comic reviews, there's so much more coming to Nerd Initiative, and there's so much more that's already on there. It should be your one-stop shop for pop culture positivity. So make sure you drop that follow.
And make sure you scan that QR code right there. If you want to stay up to date, minute by minute, month by month of what we are doing, we're not going to send you an email minute by minute, I promise.
Yes.
But scan that QR code right there. You can sign up for the Nerd Initiative newsletter. Stay up to date monthly with everything new that's going on and everything awesome that happened in the prior month. Also, if you want to show your support, best way to do that is to go over to the Nerd Initiative merchandise store and grab yourself a hat, a cup, a t-shirt, a mug, anything you want to grab. We would really appreciate the support there.
Mm-hmm. And we can't leave without saying, too, if you sign up for that newsletter, do you also know that we are doing a giveaway for some comics as well? So we don't want to make sure that you forget about that. So if I say free comics, do I have your attention? I think I might. So you want to make sure you're heading on over to Nerd Initiative, and you want to make sure you're checking out Turn a Page too, because the QR codes are all right there, because we're doing a big giveaway. First one up is Secret Invasion, and we have a very special package for that. So if you want to find out about that, well, you got to go watch Turn a Page. But keep an eye out for those QR codes, because they do pop up on Nerd Initiative, and when you scan and click, you got a chance to win.
And Nerd Initiative is doing giveaways all the freaking time, guys.
Yeah.
We do it multiple a month. And when you're part of the newsletter, you're also part of the giveaway pool. So make sure if you sign up for the newsletter to put your correct information in. That way, if you win something, we can actually reach out to you and make sure you're aware of it.
Absolutely.
So before we sign off, the last thing I'm going to go ahead and do, the next episode of our Sister Show Fandoms is going to be August 18th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next episode of the Comic Press podcast is going to air August 16th at 6 p.m. I'll be interviewing Kelsey Crawford, who is an independent
let's
comic
go.
creator out of here in Columbus, Ohio. And then the next episode of Turn a Page, where you can find out more about that Secret Invasion giveaway, is going to be August 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, I hope you have a great day. Everybody, please be safe, be kind, and take it easy.